Welcome to Alaska Weather, a production of Alaska Public Media and the National Weather Service, Alaska Region. Produced and broadcast daily from the studios of KAKM, Alaska Weather provides complete forecasts, public, marine, and aviation for all of Alaska. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.
Hello again, everyone, and thanks so much for joining us for this Tuesday's edition of Alaska Weather. I'm Dave Percy, meteorologist with the National Weather Service, and I'll be hosting today's show. Up first, there's still a high surf advisory out here for the north coast of the Seward Peninsula on out to the Bering Sea. That's out until midnight tonight with the northwest and north winds, 20 to 30 miles an hour, seas running 6 to as high as 9 feet. And so they're breaking on shore, running up well beyond the normal high tide point. And again, that's out until midnight. And then for satellite imagery, quite a front here, slowly pushing into the southeast coast, moving eastward. That brought a fair amount of rain into just about all of the Panhandle, back up along the North Gulf Coast. Lighter amounts here, and then breaking out to more of a showery condition in toward Prince William Sound. Clearing skies today. South central Alaska really allowed temperatures to rebound from what they were yesterday, especially in the Susitna Valley and on down the peninsula, Kodiak, northeast Bristol Bay. And then a system up here, weak cold front, bringing areas of rain, light rain, all the way down, trailing in, just a weak trailing edge there into the Yukon Delta. Main low back up there off the northwest coast, and then out to the west, yet another system pushing eastward. The low center right out here just south there, actually almost on top of Shimia there, front pushing eastward, and the west-southwest flow behind that. Pretty gusty winds will be developing across the Aleutians later tonight and through tomorrow. That's spreading clouds, moisture into the Pribilofs on down in toward the eastern Aleutians. A little weaker back in this area, probably the main rain area back there with that narrow band here right through there with Nikolsky. On the chart today, there's the front pushing eastward roughly to about this position currently, with rain spreading in areas of and fog into the eastern Aleutians up in toward the Pribilof Islands. And mostly just fog, maybe some drizzle or light showers out over the western Aleutians, but low center just getting northward there. Lighter winds behind the front, not all that strong in advance of the front. High pressure over the Alaska Peninsula, mostly cloudy skies there. Some clearing period, just a light northwest breeze here. Kodiak Island back in across over to about Chignik. And then the front up through here, pushing eastward, actually currently is a little farther east than what I have it depicted here now. It's more in toward the central interior area. A lot of moisture back to the northwest, and rainfall amounts, one of the heavier amounts on the southern slopes of the western Brooks Range, about 2/3 of an inch falling. Otherwise, amounts much lighter than that, especially down in this portion of the front. Some scattered showers out in advance into the Kuskokwim Valley. Generally just cloudy here over the interior areas, some isolated showers along the Alaska Range up there over the north slope. Not too much, though. Some breaks, allowing temperatures warm into the lower 60s over the north slope and even into the mid-50s out toward the coast. And then the front here pushing the rainfall in. And Juneau picking up about a half an inch, carrying moderate to heavy rain this afternoon. So they had a 12-hour amount ending at 4 p.m. this afternoon of about half an inch, as well as Gustavus. Heavier amounts by far down to the south. Petersburg, same time frame, picking up 1 1/3 inches. Ketchikan, 1.80 inches. And then by contrast, Sitka only picking up about 1/4 of an inch. The front already having pushed inland there. And that'll continue off to the east. And for tonight, the main low center now will bring more rain into the coast later tonight. Again, another round spreading in as the main low center slowly tracks eastward. That's going to keep the winds pretty gusty on the south coast. Dixon entrance into Clarence Strait. Lighter winds, more showery up to the north with the rain tapering off. The front weakening considerably. Bulk of the moisture into the Yukon, Northwest Territories. Showers scattered around the North Gulf Coast, Wrangell Mountain areas, Copper River Basin, as well as the White Mountains mainly there, and then the trailing edge, the remnants of this front just kind of spreading out. One trough right through here for some scattered showers. This really, the moisture associated with that weakening front just dissipates and kind of leaves an area of showers behind there over the 40-mile country, or actually into the central Tanana Valley northward, and quite an area of precipitation up here. This sliding eastward now onto the northeastern and central north slope, not quite making it all the way to the border though, and kind of on the edge of the Arctic coast. System here in the Bering Sea, low pressure tracking eastward now after lifting north of the western areas. Pretty good west winds picking up. Small craft advisory westerlies looks like here, 25 to 35 miles an hour, possible higher gusts, but that's about it. Definitely staying below gale force. The front driving eastward, those winds will push rain in from the eastern Aleutians this evening into the Alaska Peninsula later on tonight. Wet for the Pribilofs, and chances of rain increase here along the southwest coast with increasing moisture from about Cape Newenham all the way up to roughly Nunivak Island over to Scammon Bay or Tuksuk Bay. But actually, it looks like it'll stay a little to the south of Cape Romanzoff. Should see some clearing here, dry conditions for the Yukon Delta up toward the Nulato Hills, Caltag, and those areas. And then for tomorrow, moisture spreading eastward here quite rapidly. Southwesterly flow aloft, low center continuing to track eastward, crosses the Pribilofs early in the day to about this position tomorrow afternoon. So wet. Bristol Bay, Alaska Peninsula, Aleutian Range, rain increasing there for Kodiak Island. Quite an area of moisture coming in across the Kuskokwim Valley, reaching the western Alaska Range late in the day, and then some moisture and southerly flow also picking up here along the southern coast of the Kenai Peninsula. And that'll be spreading in, socking in western Prince William Sound in the afternoon for conditions probably going IFR there for Passage Canal on the east side. And showers otherwise scattered across the Copper River Basin with generally mostly cloudy skies, maybe some partly sunny conditions here for the Tanana Valley, showers over the White Mountains. Another area of showers back here to the north and northwest, north slopes, so not quite as sunny. Probably not as warm today as what you tomorrow is what you saw today, with showers back almost to the Noatak Valley areas, otherwise dry for the northwest coast, down into the Bering Strait, northwest winds. Could see some clearing there for St. Lawrence Island, and this slow-moving system be still pretty good wind producer tomorrow. Looking for winds there in small craft advisories here for the southern coastal areas, including Clarence Strait and the south coast. Lighter winds up to the north, and rain gradually changing to showers in the afternoon south. Just scattered showers up to the north, and then for Thursday, the next day, next system driving eastward here. That low center now coming to just near or south of Iliamna, with the front extending from southern Cook Inlet into the Gulf of Alaska, looking for gale force winds in advance of this for the North Gulf Coast, and also over to the east there, with winds gradually increasing along the outer coastline here of the Panhandle. Otherwise, you'll kind of be a break, short break there for Thursday of just some scattered showers, maybe some sun breaks down to the south. Ketchikan, Metlakatla, those areas of net. Otherwise, lots of rain, Kuskokwim Valley, Cook Inlet, say from about Willow, roughly. Palmer may escape some rain till late in the day, but that moisture will be backing around, so definitely by evening you'll be back into it. Rain extending back toward Bristol Bay. Good northwest winds behind this, 25 knots, marine forecast, so could see gusts up to 35 miles an hour through the passes of the peninsula. Pretty breezy, north winds right up the coastline, areas of small craft advisories in the marine zones, windy right along the coast there, diminishing as you get up to the Seward Peninsula, and lighter winds to the Chukchi Sea. Chance of moisture, light rain, fog, drizzle. Marginal VFR, central Arctic coast, dry on the east side, high pressure back in control of the western central Bering Sea areas for light winds there. Next system still off to the southeast, so winds will be pretty light here for the western central Aleutians on Thursday. For temperatures this afternoon, with the clouds and rain, pretty uniform here for the southeast coast, all in the mid to upper 50s, 57, pretty common at Metlakatla, Klawock, Heidelberg, and 59 there at Sitka, 57 degrees at the state capital, with 58 over at Yakutat. Lower 60s here, Prince William Sound, North Gulf Coast, 62 Cordova, 61 Valdez, and a 64 degree reading at McCarthy, and sunshine here Susitna Valley warming into the 70s. That's Big Lake with 74 that was at 3 p.m. 70 degrees there at Kodiak, 57 Homer, 61 Kenai, 66 mid-afternoon temp, probably rolls higher than that. Talkeetna after the observation time there, 63 Northway and Tok, back into the mid-50s there for the Tanana Valley at Fairbanks, 52 Tanana, back up to 60 over at Fort Yukon, 55 Northern Koyukuk Valley at Bettles, and lower 60s, as I mentioned, for the North Slope. There was some sunshine, and Alpine up to 55, otherwise 40s out along the coast, mid to upper 40s here in the Northwest, 49 at Nome, and 50 degrees there at Koyuk with Caltag at 59, 55 McGrath, mid-50s all the way out to the coastline. And for the Pribilofs, lower 50s there, mid to upper 50s Alaska Peninsula. Atka pushed up to 61, otherwise Shimia only 50. And for the lows tonight, 30s here, Brooks Range, North Slope, all the way out to the Arctic coast with 40s southward, rising to near 50 around Bristol Bay and the Alaska Peninsula, near 50 for the Aleutians, 40 south central Alaska, northward to the upper Yukon Valley, and upper 40s for the southeast coast. Highs tomorrow, maybe a little warmer, throw some 60s in here for the Panhandle, especially to the north. Going to stay cloudy and wet, too wet down to the south there, so no change from what you saw today. Lower 60s again, south central Alaska, upper 50s, and then near 60 for the upper Yukon Valley, and some lower 60s there over 40-mile country, Northway Tok, again back up toward Eagle. Cooler 40s from the Brooks Range on out to the coast. And for flying weather, lots of VFR from the Brooks Range here in northern Koyukuk Valley areas, northern Kobuk Valley, all the way out to the Arctic coast. Late tonight, early tomorrow morning, a band here along the southwest coast. A little bit of a break, then a big area IFR over the Bering Sea covering much of the Aleutians. Spotty marginal IFR areas, southern Alaska down into the Panhandle will be mostly marginal, starting out IFR. Maybe that's a pretty pessimistic forecast for the northern Panhandle. And then it looks like that should probably go VFR here in the north in the afternoon, take longer down south of that lingering low. IFR along the Coast Range, VFR again for the south central Alaska area, IFR southwest Kodiak Island, southern Bering Sea, central Arctic coast, and maybe to the east, and lingering IFR for the Brooks Range. Passes, Anatuvik, go with IFR at times tomorrow, same forecaster, Adigan. Lake Clark and Merrill, VFR becoming marginal, and as that moisture comes in from the west-southwest, that same forecast for rainy. Just look for ceilings, visibilities, conditions to come down and deteriorate into the afternoon, especially toward evening. Windy, though, the other way around, starting out marginal, becoming VFR. Isabel, marginal at times, but Mentasta should be VFR the entire day. There'll be some clouds around, but the VFR variety. And for Tanita, VFR becoming marginal, possibly late afternoon in toward evening. And for Portage, marginal VFR becoming IFR, especially on the eastern entrance. Chilkoot and White, marginal VFR, possible IFR to start with. I think it'll go VFR both passes tomorrow afternoon. And for the freezing levels, 2,000 feet back up over the Chukchi Sea, a little cooler, 6,000 feet here in the central western interior, and then that usual 12,000 feet warmer condition down over the central Aleutians, and about 8 to 10,000 feet here over the southeast coast that late tonight. And for tomorrow afternoon, that freezing level drops, so icing pretty likely above, or it'll be freezing. It'll be above 6,000 feet there, lingering in the southern areas, none to the north. Widespread rime icing spreading eastward here above 9,000 feet throughout the day, increasing southern Alaska, or the south central Alaska and the North Gulf Coast in the afternoon, not so much in the morning. Up to the north, areas of light to very isolated moderate rime icing, mostly above about 3,000 feet, Kobuk Valley to the Selawik Valley, northward to the Brooks Range and western North Slope and Arctic coast. Looking at the jet stream, main upper low up in that area there, sharp trough down into the Bering Sea, southwest jet 120 knots. That's going to be pulling that next batch of moisture right on inland to the Alaska Range and eventually from the south to north area. This low hanging on to the southern southeast coast through tomorrow for wet conditions continuing there. And the 9,000 foot winds, not too bad over the interior, low pressure there, south side of the central Brooks Range. Northeast winds maybe 10 to 20 on the northwest side of that. Pretty light here down to the southeast. And then with this system 20 to 30 knots there for the southern panhandle. And then these westerlies out along the Aleutians, pretty brisk there, 30 to 40 knots along and just south of the Aleutians to 25 to 30 there north of the Fox Islands. 3,000 feet, same pattern, those strong westerlies, 25 to start without a chimney and at 2, pick up to about 35 to 40 here as you head eastward. And wrap back around east-northeast, 25 to 30 knots on the north side of the low here. Lighter, more variable through the trough axis. Not too bad wind-wise here over the interior. And again, the southeast coast here, 25-knot winds with that persistent low slowly moving eastward and weakening. Turbulence-wise, isolated moderate chop here, Alaska Peninsula eastward, occasional moderate in those turquoise areas, maybe a little bumpy here Bering Strait, and extreme the western capes here. And I probably should have thrown some turbulence in over the southern southeast coast. Otherwise, after the break, I'll be back with a marine forecast and the ice edge.
You know, the real tragedy of practically every boating-related drowning is that it could have been easily prevented. Wearing a personal flotation device, a PFD, is by far the single most important safety measure you can take when boating. It's a point we've been stressing for years and one that simply cannot be overemphasized. Look at it this way. Virtually every single boating-related drowning could be eliminated if the victim had been wearing a PFD. It's a time of the year when most boats have long since been hauled out of the water. But for more than 2 million waterfowlers in North America, it's the start of their boating season. Some may use a duck boat to head out to a water blind. For others, their boat may be nothing more than a dinghy used to set out decoys. In either case, these boaters operate in one of the most hostile boating environments of all, near freezing water. Roy LeGrand, recently married, had not had the chance to hunt much during the season, but he and his Labrador Retriever Skeeter knew this point on the river could be a real hotspot in the right conditions. And as the wind picked up, the birds began to move and come in from the bay. Now, it looked to be the kind of day every hunter hopes for. One last duck to fill his limit. And one last retrieve for an already tired young dog. According to what LeGrand later told us, a stiffening breeze and a strong outgoing tide pushed this duck beyond the dog's reach. LeGrand said he knew his dog wouldn't give up on the retrieve and soon would be exhausted and in danger of drowning. A crisis, and LeGrand knew he had to help. An 8-foot dinghy in a high wind and choppy water. Hardly the right rescue craft for this kind of operation. And LeGrand faced the challenge of hauling a struggling 50-pound lab on board a small and unstable platform. A young, fit man and a strong swimmer, LeGrand nevertheless later admitted that he thought he and Skeeter would never make it back to shore. Nothing can prepare you for the incredible and instantaneous shock to your system when you're suddenly plunged into near-freezing water. Your first reaction is an involuntary gasp, a torso reflex that can prove deadly if your head is under the water. Your heart and circulatory system undergo a tremendous strain, sometimes resulting in cardiac arrest. Consider that a man, even without clothing, if he stays active, can survive on land at 32 degrees Fahrenheit for as long as 24 hours. But cold water conducts the heat from your body some 25 times faster. Your survival time in near-freezing water is literally a matter of minutes. In fact, drowning is often not the cause of death of many victims who fall into cold water. The killer? Hypothermia, the rapid and drastic chilling of the body core. After getting back into his boat, Roy LeGrand was able to paddle back to the dock. His friend said it must have been his lucky day. But the reasons he came back alive had very little to do with luck. First of all, he was properly dressed for the cold. But the single most important thing he was wearing was a flotation jacket, a PFD, something like this one. By keeping him afloat, he was able to expand all of his rapidly diminishing energy into getting back to his boat and getting out of the water. Wearing a PFD is critically important when boating in cold water, even if you're an Olympic-class swimmer. If you fall in without a PFD, it'll be next to impossible to get one on while in the water. In fact, should you capsize or fall overboard in cold water, your every effort should be directed toward just one goal: getting out of the water as quickly as possible. It's a rule Roy LeGrand didn't forget, and it saved his life. Never forget that water assumes an entirely different character as its temperature drops. From an element that is pleasant and refreshing during the summer, it becomes, as it gets cold, one of the most hostile environments known to man. You know, as I look at the accident reports from around the country, it's frightening to note just how many took place in circumstances where there was no obvious danger. A fisherman casting on a quiet lake, a duck hunter setting out his decoys just a few yards from his blind. The fact is, the vast majority of boating accidents happen without warning, at times when they're least expected. Far too many people who use boats as part of their outdoor recreation simply don't realize how easy it is to get into serious trouble, to actually find themselves in life or death situations. If you don't think so, consider that more outdoorsmen die from drowning or cold water exposure than for any other reason. And in the younger age groups, drowning is the second leading cause of accidental death in the country. So if your outdoor sport involves boats, please take this advice to heart. Take the time to learn basic boat handling skills. Courses are available through your state or provincial agencies, as well as a number of private boating organizations. If you drink, you must understand that alcohol greatly increases your chances of having an accident. If you go out when the water is cold, be prepared and know what to do in case of an emergency. If you can't swim, take a course from your local YMCA or the Red Cross. But no one should ever be embarrassed to wear a PFD. It is by far your best defense against drowning. A few preventative measures, some basic safety rules, and some common sense. Nothing complicated, but it can go a long way towards saving your life.
Welcome back. Sea ice analysis, wide open here. Sea ice free along the coast, navigable waters. Still a questionable area right through here. And not much change up here, except some of this stuff has been streaming in northeast winds off to the southwest, kind of in strips, pulling apart there. And that's about it. Really no big changes expected through the forecast period of the next 5 days. And for the marine forecast, that low still off the coast, keeping it quite windy both tonight and tomorrow. Southeast, east southeast, small craft advisories 25 to 30 knots, seas as high as 11 feet in the south coast. Clarence Strait, southeast 30 with gale force gusts in the forecast there. I believe it was like gale force gusts to 45 knots. Much lighter winds up the coastline, as well as more variable and lighter for the central northern inside waters. And then for Tuesday, small craft advisories here for most of the coastline, although settling down on the south side there with 20-knot winds, 6-foot seas. Otherwise 25 to 30 knots, especially in the afternoon with that front approaching, so it'll be lighter in the morning. Southeast 20 for Clarence Strait and Stevens Passage. South 20 for Northern Lynn Canal, seas all 4 feet. And for Prince William Sound, light southeast winds tomorrow. Light and variable winds here for Cook Inlet, all the way down to Kachemak Bay. Kamishak Bay, not Kachemak Bay over there by Homer, but southeast 15, southwest 20, Shelikof Strait, same thing east side of Kodiak Island, south 15, pretty good there for the North Gulf Coast. But the next front rolling up will bring gale force winds into the eastern North Gulf Coast out of the southeast Thursday afternoon. Lighter here back to the west, turning south 15 for the Barren Islands. West, light west winds for Shelikof Strait. Pretty brisk southwest breeze there on the east side of Kodiak with 9-foot seas. Northeast 20 now for Cook Inlet and Prince William Sound, looking for a big increase in the winds on Thursday there. East 30 knots, sea 7 feet. Bristol Bay, light winds tomorrow, southwest 25 to 30. Small craft advisory winds for the Alaska Peninsula, seas up to 10 feet. And then northwest to 25 for the next day there for the peninsula, west 20, Bristol Bay, west 25, southwest of Kodiak. Aleutian, southwest 30 knots here from roughly Amchitka Island all the way to Unalaska Island, west 30 behind that. Next day, lighter winds out here to the west and more variable, more northerly, and north to northwest 15 to 20. Central Aleutians, still a little breezy here toward Unalaska Island, northwest up to 25. Southwest coast, south of Nunivak Island, 15 out of the east, northeast for the Pribilofs, 20 knots. St. Matthew Island, small craft advisories here, say from Nunivak Island to Cape Romanzoff, otherwise lighter for St. Lawrence Island. And then for the next day, north, become northwest here. Should be an arrow there, but it'd be either north or northwest. 25 knot winds all the way down, small craft advisories. Higher gusts in some areas, 7 to 9 foot seas, 20 knots for the Pribilofs. And the Arctic coast, light northeast 15, small craft advisories to the western coast. And then northerlies at 20 from Cape Beaufort to Wales. Next day, Thursday, north 20 from Wales to Cape Thompson. 15 to 20 northeasterlies turn north on the central coast. And then west winds kick up to 25 knots here toward Demarcation Point. For tonight, again, rain continues here with this next system coming in, but becomes lighter, more showery for the northern panhandle. It'll be lighter here over the south as well. Scattered showers, next system pushing eastward. Tomorrow spreads rain rapidly across the Kuskokwim Valley from Bristol Bay, extending all the way back out to the Pribilofs, down to the Alaska Peninsula, sneaking up the south side of the Kenai Peninsula into western Prince William Sound. And rain for the southern southeast coast. A break there for the panhandle on Thursday early. Next system approaching from the west, rain southern Alaska, southwest Alaska, northeast along that trough. Breezy here for the west coast. Have a great evening.
These forecasts are to be used for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating. Alaska Weather is made possible by the following sponsors.
The National Weather Service.